Good day everyone. In this presentation, we're going to tackle about the methods of presenting the art subject and the prehistoric art. So, the contents of our presentation is first the art. We're going to tackle what is art, and what is the art subject. But we are not going to dig deeper because this is already tackled by the group 1. And the methods of presenting art, such as the realism, abstraction, symbolism, fauvism, dadaism, and futurism, surrealism, and then the impressionism. And then we're going to tackle about the prehistoric art too, like the prehistoric art in different periods, and the cave painting, sculpture, and the beginnings of the architecture. So, what is art? Art is the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing more works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty and emotional power. Or in other words, art is the way or the medium of the artist to express their feelings and imagination using their creative skills so that they can express their feelings more or mas maipapahayag or mas ma-express nila kung ano yung kanilang iniisip or kanilang gustong sabihin na hindi nila masabi through verbal. And then, what is the subject of art? So, the subject of art is, ito yung mga matter or yung object or subject na i-describe or pinoportray ng mga artist. Pwede itong kung tao, pwede ding bagay, hayop, scene, or pangyayari. And there are also two kinds of art as the subject, which is the representational art or objective art, and the non-representational art or the non-objective art. So, the representational art or objective art, sila yung mga art na nagde-depict or nagre-represent ng mga objects that are commonly recognized by most people, or yung mga makikilala na ng mga tao kahit una pa lang nilang kita. And they attempt to copy, even if in a subjective manner, something that's real. Or yung mga art ng mga representational art is yung tipong kung ano yung nasa realidad o kung ano yung kadalasang nakikita natin sa ating mga paligid. Yun yung mga tina-tackle or represent ng mga artist. And it also uses the form and is concerned with what is to be depicted in the artwork. So gumagamit daw ng form ang representational art and is concerned with what is to be depicted, meaning mas concerned ito sa kung ano yung kahihinatnan or kung ano yung dinidepict or represent sa artwork, rather than kung paano or kung bakit ginawa yung isang artwork, unlike the non-representational art or non-objective art. Kasi itong non-objective art is, they are those arts without any reference to anything outside itself, without representation. So ito yung art na hindi natin agad makikilala just in one glance. This is because hindi ito nagre-represent ng kung anumang object, rather than mas focus ito sa ideas or feelings ng artist. It is a non-objective because it has no recognizable objects. And it is abstract in a sense that it doesn't represent real objects in our world. So, just like an abstract, itong non-representational is pwedeng kung ano-ano yung mga artwork na as long as may meaning ito at ine-express mo yung sarili mo. It also uses content and is concerned with how the artwork is depicted. Like, mas concerned ito sa kung paano ginawa or paano ni-represent yung artwork. Unlike sa objective, which is mas concerned ito sa kung ano yung i-represent ng artist dun sa artwork. So, let's move forward to the methods of presenting the art subject. So, there are 8 methods of presenting the art subject, namely the realism, abstraction, methods, symbolism, fauvism, dadaism, futurism, surrealism, and impressionism. So first, let us tackle about the realism. So realism often refers to the artistic movement which began in France in the 1850s. The popularity of realism grew with the introduction of photography, which is a new visual source that created the desire for people to produce things that look objectively real. It is a method of portraying an art subject according to the objective reality. So realism in art is all about representing things as they truly appear in the real world. It's about capturing precise details and conveying the genuine emotions and experiences of the subjects. Realist art aims to make you feel like you're looking at a scene or person in the most lifelike way possible. So abstraction. Its etymology is derived from Latin abstractus, which means away, plus trahe, which means draw. So to sum up the meaning, it will separated from material objects or practical matters. In abstract art, the artist does not show the subject at all as an objectively reality, but only his idea or his feeling about it, or also an exaggerated emotionalism. So abstraction is when artists move away from depicting the physical world and instead use colors, shapes, and forms to convey ideas, emotions, or concepts. It's about breaking things down into their most basic elements and giving viewers the freedom to interpret the art in their own way. So there are 5 forms of abstraction, namely the distortion, elongation, mangling, cubism, and the abstract expressionism. So distortion is when the subject is in misshapen condition or the regular shape is twisted out. Distortion in art means purposely changing how something looks. The artist might make things look different from how they really are, either to express feelings or para mag-create ng unique style or make you see things in a new way. Imagine stretching or squishing a picture to give it a different shape. That's a kind of distortion. And then the elongation. So, in elongation, the subject is being lengthened, protracted, or extended. So, elongation is when artists make things look longer and thinner than they are in real life. This can add elegance or a sense of style to a subject. Like for example, imagine a person looking tall and slim in a painting, even if they're not that way in reality. And in mangling, So, mangling is like distorting things in a more intense and chaotic way. It's about changing a subject so much that might not even look recognizable. Artists use mangling to create a sense of disorder, challenge traditional ideas of beauty, or make a strong statement. So actually, ang mangling is hindi siya yung common na mga artworks, but meron ding mga artist na nagsishow ng kanilang subject or object that is cut, lacerated, mutilated, torn, hacked, or disfigured, which is called mangling. And then, cubism. So, cubism is a type of art where things are shown from different angles all at once. Artists break objects into simple shapes and pieces like squares and triangles. This makes the art look like it's been taken apart and put back together in a new way. The goal is to show the essence of the subject, not how it really looks, and it can be a bit like a puzzle. So, yung mga cubists in this time is nag-try sila gumawa ng bagong ways para makita nila yung art in a different way. So, they come up with the idea na i-represent ang kanilang subject in a geometric shapes and sometimes showing multiple viewpoints in a particular image. And then, the abstract expressionism. Abstract expressionism is a style of art where artists express their emotions and feelings using colors and shapes, even if those colors and shapes don't represent anything specific. They might use bold brushwork, lots of energy, and big areas of color. And when you look at abstract expressionist art, you're supposed to feel something deep or intuitive like freedom or the human mind's inner working. Abstract expressionism is influenced by the existentialist philosophy na nag-emphasize sa importance ng act of creating, not of the finished object. Like, hindi na balik kung paano ginawa yung artwork. Ang importante is maganda yung kinalabasan at maganda yung quality, and then yung act of painting is with efforts, with feelings, and ito yung mas nagmamatter sa mga artist. Symbolism. A symbol is a visible sign of something that is invisible, like idea or quality. And the symbolism is gumagamit ito ng mga symbol para mas ma-concentrate or mas ma-intensify ang meaning ng isang artwork, which makes it more subjective and conventional. And the symbolism in art is like storytelling with symbols and metaphors. Artists use objects, colors, and shapes to represent deeper meanings and emotions. It's a way of adding layers of significance to the artwork, inviting viewers to look beyond the surface. And then the Fauvism. Fauvism is an artistic movement of the last part of the 19th century which emphasized the spontaneity and the use of extremely bright colors. So it is a style that's all about the bold and vibrant colors, and Fauvist artists use intense and non-naturalistic colors to express emotions and create a sense of wild energy. The name Fauvism actually means wild beast because of its untamed use of color. And then let's move forward to the Dadaism. So Dadaism is a rebellious art movement that emerged in response to the chaos of World War I era. It's all about challenging traditional values and norms. Dadaist art can be absurd, nonsensical, and even humorous. It's like art that is meant to make you question everything. Dadaism tried to shock and provoke the public, sa outrageous pieces of writing, poetry recitals, and art exhibitions. At hindi naman ito nagkamali dahil nag-success sila. Dahil naging cultural phenomenon ang Dadaism. Although sadly, ang popularity ng Dadaism is hindi siya naglasa unlike sa realism and other methods of presenting the art subjects. And then Futurism. The Futurism is all about celebrating modernity, speed, and the dynamism of the industrial age. It often features images of technology, cities, and machines. Futurist art aims to capture the energy and excitement of a rapidly changing world. And then the Surrealism. Surrealism is an offshoot or a child of Dada, which is also known as the Superrealism, which revolves in the methods of making ordinary things look extraordinary. So, nagfo-focus ito sa real things na nakikita natin sa ating imagination or yung mga realistic subject na makikita ng ating unconscious mind. It is an art style that taps into the world of dreams, the unconscious mind, and the bizarre. Realistic art often features strange and unexpected imagery, often with a touch of mystery or even a hint of supernatural. It's like a journey into the weirder corners of human imaginations. So there are two types of surrealism, which is the automatism or the abstract surrealism, and then the veristic surrealism. So, yung automatism is a key element of abstract surrealism. It is like creating an art without a plan or conscious control. So, parang hinahayaan mo lang yung kamay mo na or yung isip mo na mag-wander freely, which produces spontaneous and dreamlike images na yung nadodraw or napipaint. And think of it as allowing your inner thoughts and feelings to guide the artistic process, resulting in abstract and unexpected artwork that often taps into the world of dreams in the unconscious. It is also presented in an abstract form because, according to the artist, hindi daw dapat nababurden ang meaning ng image. That's why inire-represent ito in an abstract form para mas lamang yung ideya na nandoon sa artwork. And the next type is the veristic surrealism. It is a style of surrealism that focuses on the painting or portraying dreamlike and fantastical scenes with incredible attention to detail. Unlike the more abstract approach of surrealism, veristic surrealism strives to make unreal or surreal element appear as real as possible. So, parang dinadala yung extraordinary sa realm ng reality through meticulous and highly realistic artwork na nagbo-blur sa line between the everyday and yung extraordinary. And then the last one is the Impressionism. Impressionism is all about capturing the fleeting impression of a scene or moment. It uses loose brushwork and vibrant colors to convey the ever-changing qualities of light and atmosphere. The Impressionist art makes you feel like you're glimpsing a scene in the midst of its transformation. So, ang magandang example na artwork dito sa Impressionism is yung Starry Night ni Van Gogh, which creates a visual or optical illusion na nagmo-move yung clouds or something when in fact it isn't. And it is focused on directly describing the visual sensations derived from nature.
Prehistoric art could be defined as art that was created by people in an era where any form of written language had yet not been developed. The time in which various cultures throughout human history started developing their unique language system varies greatly from region to region. Prehistoric art ibig sabihin, panahon kung saan anumang uri ng nakasulat na wika ay hindi pa nadiskubre. At panahon kung saan iba't ibang kultura sa buong kasaysayan ng tao ay nagsimulang magbuo ng kanilang natatanging sistema ng wika ay labis na nagkakaiba mula region to region. Prehistoric art in different periods. May tatlong periods ang prehistoric: Paleolithic period, Mesolithic period, Neolithic period. In Paleolithic period or Old Stone Age, 30,000 BCE, 10,000 BCE. One category of Paleolithic art may be called pocket, since these portable works are generally of a small scale, a logical size given the nomadic nature of Paleolithic peoples. The second type of Paleolithic art we can classify as permanently located works found on the walls within caves. One category of Paleolithic art ay tinatawag na pocket, dahil ang mga munting likhang sining na ito ay karaniwang may maliit na sukat. Madaling dalhin kahit saan sila mapadpad since palipat-lipat sila ng tahanan dahil ang pangunahing hanap buhay nila ay nangunguha o naghunting ng mga animals. Dahil sa klima, ang mga animals lumilipat ng tirahan, kaya ang mga tao sumusunod sila kung saan ang mga animals. Ang gamit nilang paghunting ay bato na matutulis at buto ng animals. Nanguha din sila ng isda at prutas para pagkain nila. Nakatira sila sa cave. Doon sa cave na kanilang tinitirhan, sila nagpipen ang kahit na ano. Pero, mostly animals ang kanilang pinipen. Ang gamit nilang pagguhit ay the combine of minerals, ochre, charcoal. They mix it in water. They also use blood and animal fats. Next is Mesolithic period or Middle Stone Age, 10,000 BCE at 8,000 BCE. The Mesolithic period or Middle Stone Age is an archaeological term describing specific cultures that fall between the Paleolithic and the Neolithic periods. Mesolithic period, gitna ng Paleolithic at Neolithic period. In this period, dahil nga nagbago ang klima, ang mga animals ay nagmamigrate. At doon din ang mga tao sumusunod sila kung saan ang mga animals. Dahil kung hindi sila susunod, wala silang makain. Umaasa lamang sila sa paghunting ng mga animals. Madalas tumira sila sa camps, near rivers, and other bodies of water. Pag umuulan, maraming tumutubong gulay at prutas, at naisip nila na pwede sila magtagal doon. And agriculture was introducing during this time. Early humans began to figure out how to farm and pag-aalaga ng animals. At dito rin nagsimula sila sa paggawa ng bahay na gawa sa kahoy para may permanent na silang tirahan. This time, napag-aralan nila kung anong mga plants ang pwedeng tumubo kaya dito sila nagsimulang magtanim ng gulay at prutas. Pero, umaasa pa rin sila sa paghunting, hindi pa rin nila iniiwan ang kanilang nakagawian. Next is Neolithic period or New Stone Age, 8,000 BCE, 3,000 BCE. The Neolithic or Agricultural Revolution followed the Mesolithic era and it began in the ancient Near East about 10,000 BCE. Human beings learned to manipulate nature. They invented agriculture, which allowed production of a food surplus. They manufactured new types of tools, and they domesticated animals like dogs, sheep, goats, cattle, pigs, and so on. Neolithic period. In this period, humans switched from hunter-gatherer mode to agriculture and food production. Nag-alaga sila ng animals at nagko-cultivate ng lupa para taniman. Dito nagsimula mag-enhance ang mga gamit pang farming. at pag-enhance ng home construction. At umaasenso rin dito ang paggamit sa art including pottery, sewing, and weaving. Next is cave or rock paintings. Are painting on cave or rock walls and ceilings, usually dating or to prehistoric times. The earliest known rock paintings are dated to the Upper Paleolithic, approximately 40,000 years ago. Various conjectures have been made as to the meaning these paintings had to the people who made them. Prehistoric men may have painted animals to catch their soul or spirit in order to hunt them more easily. Or the paintings may represent an animal's vision and homage to surrounding nature. Or they may be the result of a basic need of expression that is innate to human beings. Or they may be recordings of the life experience of the artist and related stories from the members of their circle. Noon, naniniwala sila na pag pinipinta nila ang isang animals, madali nilang mahuli dahil naniniwala sila na sumasama ang kaluluwa ng isang animals o nakukulong ang kaluluwa sa pamamagitan ng pagpinta nito. The painting may represent sa pagpapahalaga sa kapaligiran o maaring ito ay bunga ng pangunahing pangailangan ng pagpapahayag na kaakibat sa likas na kakayahan ng mga tao o maaring mga talaan ito ng karanasan sa buhay ng mga artist, kaugnay na kwento mula sa mga kasapi ng kanilang pangkat. Next is types. The majority of prehistoric cave paintings were figurative and 99% of these were of animals. At first, Stone Age artists painted predator animals like lions, rhinoceros, saber-toothed felines, bears, almost as often as game animals like bison and reindeer. But from the Solutrean era onwards, imagery was dominated by game animals. Pictures of humans were an exceptionally rare occurrence, and were usually highly stylized and far less naturalistic than the animal figures. The majority of prehistoric cave painting ay nagsasalaysay ng mga larawan at 99% ng mga ito ay mga animals. In Stone Age, artists painted predator animals like lions, rhinoceros, saber-toothed felines, bears, kadalasang game animals like bison and reindeer, ngunit sa panahon ng Solutrean era, tinatampok ang larawan ng game animals. Ang mga larawan ng mga tao ay lubos na bihirang pangyayari at karaniwang may mataas na estilong sining at hindi gaanong naturalisko kumpara sa mga larawan ng mga hayop. Cave painting in this stage. So, may tatlong stages ang cave painting. First, the outline and basic features of the animals are drawn on the cave wall either by scoring the surface of the rock with a sharpened stone or by applying a black outline using charcoal or manganese. So, ang first stage is ginagawa nila ng outline using charcoal or manganese. The second is the complete drawing of the animal would be colored off or filled in red, ochre, or other pigments. So, ang kabuuan ng drawing ay colored na siya, filled of red, ochre, or other pigments. The third is the edge of the animal's body would be shaded with black or another pigment to increase its three-dimensionality. So, next is, which are the oldest cave paintings? At present, the earliest art in prehistoric caves whose dates of origin have been authenticated by radiocarbon dating consists of abstract sign, namely a red dot and a handprint, found among the El Castillo cave paintings in Cantabria, Spain. These images have been dated to at least 39,000 BCE and 35,500 BCE respectively, making them the oldest art of their type from a cave in Europe. So that's all.
Sculpture. Sculptures been a form of portable or mobiliary arts, and thus more prone to destruction or loss, and less common, but no less significant in revealing the intellectual and artistic progress of the culture, or at least involved. So, ang sculpture is the branch of the visual arts na nag-operate sa 3 dimensions. Isa sab siya sa mga plastic arts na malig-on sa eskultura ug sa original sa paggamit ng modelo. Next, 2 BCE. 2 BCE sculptures tour begins in the Stone Age. Exactly not know the earliest prehistoric sculpture are the two early stone effigies known as La Venus de Birajat and La Venus de Tantan. So, ang Venus of Birajat Ram dating from around 2300 BC is a basaltic statuette na taghimo siya noong panahon ng Aksilian na na-discovered siya sa Golan Heights. Ang Venus of Tantan 200 BC is a quartzite statuette from the same period na gyapon sila. So makaparehas na bali sila. Next is Roman sculpture. Roman sculpture until around the great 27 BC EC, despite the influence of the first Etruscan sculptures, no further Judi be free. Roman sculpture was not one-dimensional or realistic. Thereafter, he became severely heroic and quite mediocre. So, ang Roman sculpture ay komplikado siya sa relation sa Greek sculpture kay hamuki iyang mga example sa mga sikat na eskultura ng Greek. Next, and Hellenistic Greek sculpture. Hellenistic Greek sculpture during this period characterized by the spread of Greek culture throughout the civilized world. Classical realism was replaced by greater heroism and expressionism. So, an Hellenistic Greek sculpture ay kanunay nga nagpakita sa usa ka realismo nga minlambo siya gikan sa classical na panahon. Next is Celtic metal sculpture. Celtic metal sculpture, let not forget the Celt, a series of Nubiatic tribes that emerged from the Caucasus around 800 BC, gradually spreading westwards across Europe 600 to 100 BC to the Iberian Peninsula, Great Britain, and Iceland. So, ang Celtic metal sculptures nag-involve og discipline sama sa metalworks and jewelry arts ug sa stone carving. Sila sab ang pinakapaspas og dalubhasa sa panday at pagpanday sa ginto. Next is Classical Great Sculpture. Classical Great Sculptures divide into early classic period the Upper Classic period and the Late Classic period. This was the climax of Greek creativity in the plastic arts. Famous sculpture such as Polykleitos, 5th century BC, and Myron 480 to 444 BC, and Phidias 488 to 431 BC achieved a level of realism further developed by later artists such as Callimachus na 432 to 408 BC, ang Kupas 395 BC 395 to 350 BC, and Linsopas 395 to 305 BC. So, ang classic sculpture has long been regarded as the highest points in the development of sculpture arts in ancient Greece nga halos sculpture.
So, our next topic, it's all about the beginning of architecture. Historically speaking, ang architecture is complexity of human history itself. Pero gi-consider sab na gasugod gayud ang architecture yadto Neolithic period. Kaya adto na time ang mga tao mihunong na pagpuyo sa caves o gasugod dayon sila sa pagdesign ng kaugalingon bahay. Next is the prehistoric architecture. Ang prehistoric architecture includes monumental structures such as Stonehenge or cliff dwellings or puyanan sa pangpang na may mga touch og lapok na mga structures sa Amerika. Ug daghan sa mga example ng prehistoric architecture nag-preserve na makita sa Southern England. Ang Stonehenge sa Amesbury ug ang Yuki Isab is well known siya sa mga example ng prehistoric stone circle. Next is the Egyptian architecture. Egyptian architecture gihulagway it depicts the prominent period of Egyptian architecture styles ranges from 3,500 BCE to 900 BCE. So, the Egyptian created most impressive structures of the ancient world, which is the pyramid. Ug may mga daghan sab na matikda na mga noticeable architecture characteristics. So, ang mga bahay sa una sa Egypt is made siya ng mga blocks nga lapok na giluto sab sa adlaw or sun. So, kasagaran o makita sa nato na yan ila pyramids is makita nato na made siya ng block and nga lapok tas gisunog sab sa adlaw or sa sun. Next is the classical architecture. So, ang classical architecture nag-refer sa style and design sa mga buildings sa ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Classical architecture shape or approach to building in Western colonies around the world. So, ang classical architecture is ga-refer na siya ng style and design sa mga ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Next is the early Christian architecture. So, the early Christian architecture started in two prominent locations centered at Rome and Constantinople. Ang early Christian architecture sa Rome na-impluwensyahan og mga logical outcome sa kasamtangan nga Roman architecture. Then, ang mga marbles design sa ila old buildings, gibalhin sab nila sa ila recent or new basilican churches of the Christians. So, ang early Christian architecture is as sa panganta lamang is kuan siya, simbahan. Next is the Romansky. Romance. Inspired by what Roman architecture? So, the similarities between Roman and Romansky include round arch, stone materials, and the basilica style plan. Ang Romansky architecture also influences from Gothic, Carolingian, Byzantine, and Islamic architecture. Ang Romansky period, if I'm not mistaken, generally it's gikan sa ang Romansky architecture is gikan siya sa period is gikan siya sa 500 AD to 1200 AD. So, ang katas-on sab ng Romansky between 1755 and 1125. So, the characteristic of Romansky is combining feature of contemporary Western Roman and Byzantine buildings. Romansky architecture known siya sa massive quality, thick walls, round arch, sturdy piers, groin vaults, large towers, and decorative arcading. So, ang style niya can be identified right across Europe despite sa iya characteristic and different materials. Next is the Gothic architecture. Gothic architecture began mainly in France, where architects were inspired by Romansky architecture and the pointed arts of Spanish Moorish architecture. So, dali sab ma-recognize ang Gothic architecture tungod sa arch, vaulting, flying buttresses, elaborated sculptures, and stained glass windows. Gothic structure was originally known as French style. Next is the Renaissance architecture. Ang Renaissance architecture is gipunduhan siya or finance siya ng commercial nga para mauswag or ma-competition siya ba between city-states. Sama sa Florence, Roma, o Venice as well as mga rich isab na mga families. Pero ini Renaissance architecture sa ini na time pero wala na madugay. Pero wa madugay ito na pahitabo may disastrous sa Europe yadton 1315 to 1319. Ang hampak sa Black Death itong 1346. Then which wiped out 1/3 of the European population. Amiton disaster na mingabot sa Renaissance architecture na time. Ang 100 years war between England and France and itong 1339 to 1439 and the Christian church was polarized by schism. So ang Renaissance yaon sa dili madayon na kondisyon yaon na yadto na time. Pagka 16th century, popes in Rome almost bankrupt the church due to their profligate financing of fine buildings and the visual arts. So, amo yaton nahitabo sa Renaissance architecture. Next is the Baroque architecture. The Baroque style is reflected in opulent and dramatic churches with irregular shapes and extravagant ornamentation. So, ang Baroque is ang iya mga style ini siya is mga dramatic kibali na mga kuan style sa iya sa simbahan. So sayang no, dili nato mapakita ang mga picture pagpadako kadayaw sa mga picture. I-search da ka natin sa Google, charot. Next is Baroque, nga di pa sa Baroque. So ang Baroque architecture or style makita nato siya sa tibuok Europe isab. Then ang mga Russian aristocrats na impress sila sa Palace of Versailles. Then France and incorporated Baroque ideas in the building of St. Peter's Barge. Amaya na ang mga elements ng Baroque style makita gayud throughout Europe. Next is the Rococo architecture. Ang Rococo architecture lahi siya sa Romanesque, Gothic and Baroque kabalak-an gayud sa interior design, diba? Amin gikabalak-an ang mga Romanesque, Gothic and Baroque gikabalak-an ang mga interior design. But ang Rococo is perfectly reflected the decadent indolence and degeneracy of the French royal court and high society. So ang Rococo siya, style niya is amda siya ng building dako siya na building pero kung siya royal court and high society. So Rococo art and architecture is characterized by elegant decorative design with scrolls, vines, shell shapes, and delicate geometric patterns. Ug makita ini siya sa centered isab ng France. Next is the American colonial. So ang American colonial architecture characteristic include symmetrical front and rectangular shape. So kuan siya ang kuanan American colonials is hitsura ng iya naong is sa yang kon amda siya ng White House siya nagamay as in puti da siya tas amda siya ng ito lang na symmetrical mura da siya lubnganana na design sa picture siya guys siya ang na. Next is the Georgian architecture. So during the reign ang Georgian architecture is during the reigns of George I, George II, the third, and the fourth. So akadaman siya gipangana Georgian architecture. So ang Georgian architecture expanded throughout major cities of British Isles, including Bath, Edinburgh, London, and Dublin. So these graciously proportioned classical buildings are marked by an understated elegance. Their pleasing symmetry in part achieved by applying the golden ratio para isisab siya tan-awon sa mga mata ng tao. So kadaman dili siya kadayaw, ang iya design is dili siya laong na grabe ga kuan yan mga dramatic like sa Baroque. Next is the neoclassical architecture. Ang neoclassical architecture characterized by grandeur of scale, simplicity of geometric forms, especially Doric or Roman detail. Ang ilagi gamit na mga column is dramatic o preference sa blank walls ang neoclassical. So ang new antique simplicity represented the general reaction to the excesses na or mga sobra na style sa Rococo. Amen ang neoclassical. Og konsab ang neoclassical is milambo siya sa almost in every major city like US and Europe. So gibagon ni Catherine II sa Russia ang St. Petersburg into the unparalleled na mga collection sa neoclassical buildings as advanced as any contemporary works sa France and English. So pagka 1,800 halos tanang bag-o na architecture sa British reflected the neoclassical spirit na ang ilagihimo nga model is kaisog nga innovator sa France na mao si Claude Nicolas Ledoux, who had a central role in the evolution of neoclassical architecture. Next is the Greek Revival. So, ang style of architecture ng Greek Revival is inspired by symmetry, proportion and elegance. Ancient Greece temples of 5th century BC. So, sa United States, ang Greek Revival naka-reach ng popularity gikan 1825 to 1860 na amoy pagsugod sa Civil War. Na amoy na himo na first dominant national style of architecture in the US. Hantod namin spread dayon siya from East Coast across country to the West Coast. Next is the Victorian architecture. Ang Victorian architecture, so the term Victorian architecture refers not to a particularly styles but sa panahon na pagdani Queen Victoria sa United Kingdom of Great Britain from 1835 to 1901. So, amo yan siya gipangana Victorian architecture tungod kigipangan siya ka Queen Victoria. Then, ang Victorian era architecture spanned more than 60 years ug naglangkob sa nagsapaw-sapaw na mga styles included early Gothic Revival, Folk Victorian, Greek Revival, Italianate, hantod pagka Second Empire, ang stick Romanesque Revival, Shingle, Colonial Revival ug ang sikat nga si Queen Anne style sa katapusan na era. So ang Victorian architecture is ang design niya is kanang makabantay bitaw kami ng mga subdivision na parehas da siya ng style but different ang iyang mga colors kada bahay. Amayan sa Victorian architecture. Ang Art Nouveau known as the style in France. Ang Art Nouveau was first impressed in fabrics and graphic design. Ang style mingkanat dayon siya sa mga architecture and furniture yaton 1890s ang Art Nouveau. Then ang industrialization amoy nakapabalik sa pagtagad sa mga tao ngadto sa natural forms and personal craftsmanship of the art and craft movement. Ang Art Nouveau buildings have asymmetrically shaped arch and decorative Japanese. Ang kibali ang tagkilid kibali na niyaon art kibali kabantay ka mo yung ato mga bahay na kada haligi is dili siya kun round, diba? Pero ang sa Art Nouveau is naka-round siya, round style siya. I mean, kibali decorative yan siya ng mga Japanese. ang mga pinaka-curve kibali tapos may mga tanom isab sa mga kilid-kilid kibali amdo siyang teres-teres ana noon sa ining kada haligi. Amayon siya sa Japanese decor. Next is Biox architecture. A building style named after these Biox arts sa Paris. The legendary school where the principles of the popular late 19th and early 20th century architectural style were taught. So, ang Biox arts architecture emerged in the late 1800s in Paris and spread to the US during the Gilded Age. Tungod kay gatabang ang mga ilado ng mga architects sama ni Richard Morris, H.H. Richardson, ug Charles McKim who trained at the Biox art style home to America. Next is the Neo-Gothic. So, ang Neo-Gothic is the same da siya sa Victorian architecture. Ang Neo-Gothic is in the early 20th century, medieval Gothic ideas were applied to modern buildings, both private homes and the new type of architecture called skyscrapers. So, ang Gothic revival was a Victorian style. Same da siya, no? Inspired by Gothic cathedrals o other medieval architecture. Ang design sa bahay sa Gothic revival nagsugod sa United Kingdom yadtong 1700s when Sir Horace Walpole nag-decide na i-remodel ang iya bahay in the 20th century. So, Gothic revival ideas were applied to modern skyscrapers, which are often called Neo-Gothic. Ang Neo-Gothic na mga skyscrapers kasagaran may lig-on na vertical lines ug taas ang height or kahabugon. Arch and pointed windows with decorative tracery, gargoyles, and other medieval carvings and pinnacles. So, ito ang Neo-Gothic is design da siya sa Victorian styles na. Ito na ko lang na under siya ng subdivision nagatapad-tapad, mga bahay nagatapad-tapad but different iya color pero pareha sila ng mga design. Dili lamang pareha sa color. So that's all for my report about the beginning of architecture na ato makita na nag-improve gayud ang mga architecture is from nagpuyo ang mga tao sa caves hantod na himo sila ng sa bato sab sila naghimo ng mga bahay hantod na sa lapok, no, sa lapok ang ilang mga bahay hantod isab na develop na gayud ang mga butang na makatukod ng dayaw na bahay. Hantod ko man na ato makita na daghan na mga dayaw na bahay tungod sa mga architecture. So that's all for my topic. Thank you for listening. God bless us all.